Joining us now, Susan Rice, former director of the Domestic Policy Council in the Biden administration, obviously also former national security advisor and UN ambassador. Ambassador Rice, as we just heard, Donald Trump referring to Harris as Camilla, which doesn't seem to be an accident because he deliberately mispronounces her name. What do you think he's trying to achieve?
I think it's all part of his strategy to denigrate and objectify the vice president, as he does women of all sorts all the time. Donald Trump is incapable of respecting women. And it is not only in his DNA and how he has treated women at every stage of his life, personally and professionally, but it is at the root of his policy approach. Project 2025 and the Trump-Vance agenda is to take American society and American women back decades and generations to a time when we didn't control our bodies, we didn't have rights. And this is really the thrust of what his agenda is about. Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are very clear. This is an election about the future. Are we going to have a country where everybody counts, whatever their background, whatever their gender, whatever their age or where they came from? If they're an American citizen, they deserve a stake in this country and the ability not just to get by, but to get ahead, where our freedoms are protected and respected. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance really want to take us back to a time when those rights and freedoms were denied, not just to women, but to the vast majority of Americans in this country. And so he approaches this by belittling and denigrating and objectifying his opponents, and in this case, using gender and sexualized terminology. Sometimes he uses racialized terminology, but it's all to distract from the reality that he is running a campaign that is really retro, dangerous, and self-serving.
Let me pick up on the racial component of this, because some Republican leaders, the former speaker, and others have criticized the racial attacks, the thread of racial attacks, and said that that's not what he should be doing, in particular after his attacks at the NABJ convention in Chicago. I wanted to play some of that for you.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
but
identified as a black woman.
I respect either
black
one.
College.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear.
So I wanted to ask you, as someone who has dealt with this all your professional life, all your life, just how do you react to that, someone who became a black person?
I mean, in so many ways, it's not worth dignifying that kind of base and ignorant attack.
But as a tactic, as a campaign tactic, we've seen it in previous campaigns.
It's a tactic that's meant to divide and to denigrate the fact that 10% of the American population, 33 million Americans, Andrea, are mixed race, have more than one racial background. And the fact that somebody who has been president and is running for president can't understand and respect that it is possible to be a mixed race person and as valued and intelligent and capable and worthy as anybody else, and that as an American and an American of African descent in this country, given our history, given how this country has handled matters of race, that people who are mixed race and are and one of those races is black are viewed as and typically identify as black. And that is what Vice President Harris has done all her life. And frankly, it's not just because she went to Howard University and was in a black sorority. She is a black person because that is her background, her experience, and that is how she chooses to identify. And she doesn't have to do that at the expense of her Indian identity. It is possible, Andrea, to be both.
Let me also ask you about NBC reporting that Harris is going to begin to highlight, quote, unfinished pieces of Biden's agenda that she would champion as president. She has been criticized so far for not laying out policies in these couple of weeks where she's, frankly had to organize a campaign and choose a running mate, but universal child care, paid family leave, affordable housing, minimum wage increase, a lot of the things you worked on in the White House. How important is it for her to find a way to differentiate herself from aspects of the Biden agenda? Maybe, move the ball, put an emphasis on other things. How does she do that and still be loyal to the fact that she worked with Joe Biden?
Well, Andrea, first of all, it's been barely over 3 weeks since she has been the presumptive Democratic nominee. She's done an extraordinary job picking up first-class running mate, barnstorming the country, generating enthusiasm, making people understand that this is an exciting election about the future and that one that can be waged on the basis of optimism and joy rather than fear, hatred, and division. She will, as she has said, outline aspects of her economic policy later this week. But I think it's very important to remember that this has been the Biden-Harris agenda. Kamala Harris has been an integral architect and executor of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration. And when you talk about the important business that she is committed to continuing and finishing, things like paid family leave, making permanent the child tax credit, making child care more affordable, raising the minimum wage, respecting workers, and helping to strengthen unions. These are elements of a policy framework that she devised as part of a key part of the Biden administration and is keen to see through to the finish line. So there will be important, as there should be, aspects of continuity in many policy areas. But of course, the vice president will outline her vision and where she sees opportunities to advance their collective agenda, the Biden-Harris collective agenda, and take it further forward. I think we all look forward to hearing that. But this notion that she somehow doesn't deserve credit for and isn't part of and wasn't an integral architect of the Biden-Harris administration agenda is not only false, it's frankly somewhat bizarre and offensive.